She's all right when you get to know her. This is my podcast, and it takes you from your restrictive, toxic, life-limiting 9 to 5 into a life on your terms, full of freedom and flexibility as a self-employed virtual assistant. So whether this is your first introduction into the possibility of becoming a VA, or perhaps you've been doing a bit of Googling already, I'm going to get rid of the overwhelm, rid of the self-doubt, and show you that this life is possible. I've not just started this rodeo, you know. I'm Catherine Gladwyn, and I've been doing what you think is impossible since 2015. Shall we get started? So this one is all about boundaries. Boundaries that you could set as a virtual assistant. And I don't mean putting yourself in a Zorbin ball or getting yourself a picket fence or anything like that to walk around with. It's things that you may not yet have considered to put in place to make sure that being a virtual assistant never feels like work, so that you really are able to have an unimaginable working life that suits you, where everything suits you. When I first started, I didn't have certain boundaries in place. Boundaries, rules, whatever you want to call them. So I may give you advice, and my thoughts on certain boundaries in this episode, and you might think, no, that's going to be fine by me. And then later on, you may think, actually, it doesn't work for me. So I'm also going to tell you how to reverse anything that you may be not quite happy with at the moment in your business. Perhaps, you've allowed clients to have your phone number in the past, and one of them just won't stop texting on a Sunday. So we're going to address how we can stop them doing that and start accepting your boundaries. So I'm also going to give you advice on how to undo certain traits that you may have adopted to please people, or you thought it wouldn't bother you, without the fear of losing those clients. You're not going to lose them, I promise. So first of all, I'm going to just cover why we are so adverse to having boundaries in place. And I think it comes from the employee mindset, because when you start a job, you're given all these terms and conditions. The person next to you that's doing your induction says to you, you can have 3 coffees a day, but any more than that, and you need to put 20p in the pot. I don't know, I just made that one up. But, even going to the toilet too much, you sometimes think to yourself as an employee, oh, are they going to start noticing this? Or, you have to ask for days off. You have to answer the phone when you're in the middle of something. And if you're anything like me, you're like, oh, I can't even remember what I was going to do. Sometimes even I will think, oh, I need to research this, or I need to check the Marks and Spencer website, see if they've got these bags in that I don't need. And I'll get my phone, I'll sit down, I'll say something to my partner, and then I've completely forgotten what I was going to Google. Distractions are a nightmare wherever you are, and you cannot put boundaries in place when you're an employee. It doesn't feel right. You're labelled as being difficult, right? You feel embarrassed if you do it. I mean, it's like, I used to have a sign above my monitor at my last employed job, because if it was raining or anything like that, or I was too tired because I get fatigue, then I would have lunch at my desk. And you could guarantee somebody always comes up and goes, oh, can I interrupt just a minute? No, you have now. So, but no, I don't want you to. I'm actually having lunch. So what I used to do is I used to put a bit of A4 paper on top of my monitor saying I'm at lunch. It didn't always work, obviously. There's always somebody that just wants to, oh, just 1 second, I'm just checking that you got that email I sent 3 seconds ago. Yeah, Kate, yeah, thanks, got it. So a good place to start is to think about all of the things that do your head in as an employee, or perhaps are starting to did you just see my partner sneezing in the background? He never used to sneeze that loud, and he certainly didn't put it on his Plenty of Fish profile that he's got a massive sneeze 11 years ago. So think about all of those things that kind of do your head in. Do you ever see like one of your clients numbers pop up on your phone and think, oh, just go away. Sometimes you need boundaries for certain clients, and for others, you're okay with it. I used to work with this web guy, and I don't let anybody phone me. I don't give my number out to anybody. But he had my number because I started working with him before I put the no calls boundary in. I was absolutely fine with him phoning me. He's such a lovely chap. And I'd worked with him for like 4 or 5 years, and I just really felt a part of his business, and he was just so lovely. I mean, when he hit his first 20K month, I was on holiday and he texted me and he's like, "We've just hit our first 20K month. Couldn't have done it without your support." I was on holiday, but I didn't care because it just, so that boundary didn't apply to him. So it's fine to have boundaries that only apply to certain clients. There are some that do overstep the mark sometimes. So let's have a look at some that you might want to consider. Now, like I've just touched on, no calls. Obviously, if you love chatting on the phone and you find that easier than an email, then you crack on with it. All of these are boundaries that you could, and I'm going to put could in capital letters, not should, because it might not work for you. So if you're chatty, then and you're happy to have calls, then you crack on with it. Couple of things to consider though is that your time is money. So if you're having a call with a client, you need to have the boundary in place, and this will be on your booking form. You'll need to put it on your booking form that all calls are charged. If you're not into calls, that's a great way of stopping people just phoning without booking a time in. Because I think it's around 23 to 28 minutes it takes to get back into a task once you've been distracted from it. That's for normal people. It's about 3 hours and 4 minutes for me and counting. But also with emails, you've got a paper trail. So there's often these situations where, and I talk from experience and seeing things in the Facebook group as well, that when a client gets into money trouble, they start questioning your invoice because they're just trying to claw back money. They're panicking, they're scared and what have you. So if you've got everything in an email, you can say, look, you asked me to do that, or you didn't ask me to do that. But if you have done everything on the phone, then it's really hard to prove your case. So if you are somebody that has phone calls, maybe give yourself a rule that you follow it up with an email. And always just be mindful that your time is money. So even if you are happy to chat and talk about the weekend and where you're going on holiday and things like that with your clients, just think about all of the time that you're spending doing that, and you're going to have to work more hours in on a paid task to claw that money back. So, I mean, I speak from experience. This isn't like, look, I didn't make any mistakes when I started. I didn't have any boundaries in place at all when I started. I was of the grateful mind, oh my God, you want to work with me? This is brilliant. So yeah, I'm going to bend over backwards. If if it's Sunday and I'm in Bristol with my daughter, and you want to phone me while I'm having lunch, I'll step outside the restaurant and take your call. That actually happened. So eventually I started to remove my phone number from social media and things like that. And I stopped taking calls. If anybody really did want a call, then it had to be scheduled in. And once they know they got to pay for it, they usually like, I'll send an email. It's just so much easier with an email, because when you're talking, you can say, he's just blown his nose now. You're going to have to wait 28 minutes for me to get back into it now he's blown his nose. When you're talking on the phone, it's just like me talking here. You start to think of other things, and you can go off on a tangent, and the client can think, oh, no, I told you to do that. But he may have only just been thinking it. So another sort of tick for emails as opposed to calls, just things for you to think about. I'm also the same now with DMs. So I used to have a bookkeeping client that would send me instructions and invoices and things like that via DM. And he'd do it sort of evenings, weekends and what have you, which was good for him. It worked for him. But I don't know about you, I hate having unread notifications. So I'd have to read it, and then I would carry it in my mind that I would need to remember to go back to it when I'm next working, and download or copy and or do whatever he needed to do. And then I would feel compelled to reply as well, because they may have seen that it had been read, or and it was just causing me to feel kind of overwhelmed, if you like, because I was carrying so much in my mind. Don't underestimate how drowning it can feel to be carrying so much in your mind. Another thing is, at the beginning, I did have this on my website, I think, from memory, but I had something like, for urgent work, it's going to be like, I don't know, I think I did double my hourly rate or something like that. But then I thought, you know what, I don't want to do urgent work. Nothing is urgent. After you step inside a hospital, everything they're doing is urgent, but nothing we're doing is urgent. So it, it's often lack of planning on the client's side, and saying no to a client that wants something doing right away is huge for you. You will feel so empowered, and you will have shown yourself as their equal. It will change that relationship massively. Even if you do try and charge them double or something like that, saying, no, my working hours are so and so, I can get it done for next Tuesday or something like that, 9 times out of 10, they'll be like, oh, okay, yeah, fine. Because they realise it's not urgent. And by doing something just like that, you're telling them that you're available to do that at any time. So have a think about whether you are happy about urgent work, because it is usually because they've not planned, or they've forgotten that it really isn't urgent. They're just panicking. Now, another weird boundary to put in place, and I'll show you how to put it in place, but is micromanaging. So I did have a client that these are things that you may not put in place, because you might think, oh, I can't see that happening. And then all of a sudden it does happen. And that's when you find you want to put this stop sign in place, this boundary, this rule, if you like. So I did have it's another book, predominantly did bookkeeping for him, but also he had loads of properties all around England and Wales. So there was a lot of admin as well for him. And for the first year, he was really, I thought he's micromanaging. And I'd been charging for that time, when he'd call, because it was early days, he'd call and he'd check up on, so you've done this, that, and the other. Yeah, I've done it. I've said I've done it, And how did the conversation go with such and such? Well, that's not relevant, because I phoned them. I did what you asked me to do. You can see it's been done. It doesn't matter how we got to that. You still got all your houses. No one's taken your houses from you. I've done what you need to do. So I said to him one day, we met up one day, because he lived in Swindon as well, and we met up just to go through some things face to face. There's another boundary I've now got in place. And I said to him, do you know, you could probably save money. And of course, if anybody's told that, they're like, oh, hello. And I said to him, you are micromanaging me. There's quite a few occasions where you are phoning me and asking me kind of the process I went through to do something. And I've already confirmed it's been done, and I'm charging for that time. And he reflected, and he said, oh, I didn't realise I was even doing it. And it stopped from there on in. And it did save him money, because obviously it was almost doing things twice. And if his hourly rate, he didn't have an hourly rate, but it's going to be more than mine, given all the income he was getting from these properties. So the time he's spending on a call with me, micromanaging me, he's not only paying me, but he's losing money himself, because he was the one that was doing up his properties as well. Well, half the time. So another thing that comes with time, and and I was very lucky that I learned this by observing some of my clients, because I did do I created a few websites from scratch for clients. And by watching another client, I learned that you have to give people a certain number of opportunities to come back with changes. So, what I did is I created a website for a parish council, and I said to them, you provide the content and I will put it on the pages, send you the links, and you need to approve the content within 7 working days or whatever I put. And you have got 2 rounds of amends from every draft. Because if you don't set those boundaries in place, what can happen, and I have seen happen to an astronomical extent with a client, oh my God, it was awful for them, is people are coming back all the time. Oh, yeah, paragraph 2, third word in, could we put a comma after it? Go off, put a comma. Here we go. Yeah, just noticed line 19, the 27th word in, could we put a semicolon? And you're like back and forth, back and forth, back. And unless you've charged thousands and thousands for this job that you're doing, you're going to be there forever. You could be there forever, going backwards and forwards with amends, and they're just taking the piss out of your time. And then all other client work just has to get pushed back. And so if you're doing things that potentially need amendments, like social media creation, social media graphics creation and things like that, then do specify whether they'll provide the content and it's their responsibility to get it to you spelling and grammar mistake free, and how many amends they can have and things like that. Do you know, but don't panic about any of this, because you will make mistakes. I'm happy to call them mistakes. I don't want to make you feel that you're doing things wrong, but I did them. I made these mistakes, and without making them, I wouldn't have had the business I've got, because I learnt from them. And instead of getting angry with myself, I always, do you know what, with anything negative. So let me think of a boundary I've had in place. I know the woman that used to bloody email me on Sundays or phone me, like when she knew I wasn't working, she just thought she was the only client that I had, and she was the most important person in the world. She was a nightmare. Whenever I see her name pop up on my phone, I would just feel like this dread, this real dread. Like when my last employed role, this guy used to insist on having his ear pods, plugs or whatever in, and speaking really loudly on the phone call about how brilliant he was. And it just used to make my skin crawl every time I heard his voice. And so when I used to see her name, because she was so rude and so demanding, it just used to have that same effect on me. And I thought, how can I come away from this? How can I stop this? I didn't want to feel horrible about it. I mean, it's not nice for me, and it's not nice for me to have those negative feelings about her either. So that's when I thought, right, I'm going to stop calls. People can't call me. It doesn't work for me. And that was the learning. That was the turning it around. Anything negative can, you once you've got past the, like, I can't believe I'm feeling like this, or I can't believe they're making me feel like this, you can look at things after a couple of weeks or even a couple of days and just think, how can I stop this negative emotion? And think about how you can make it a positive. And if you can't get to that place, then come and put your negative emotion in the Facebook group that I run, and you'll find your cheerleaders in there. We'll all help you with it. So they are just a few boundaries. Oh, another one as well that I said I was going to mention, no face-to-face. I mean, when I first started, I used to even work from clients' homes, their offices, locally, and I'd meet up with them when it could have easily been an email. And it was, I did it. But as my health started to deteriorate and my energy and things like that, then it it had to stop. So yeah, no face to face, and it did not stop me getting clients at all. So I hope that's a good one for anybody out there that's an introvert. I Yeah. So what you can do is, I mean, you wouldn't want a page on your website that says, "Here are my boundaries. I will not take calls. I will not meet you. You will not micromanage me, and you will not have urgent work." It might be a bit negative. But what you can do is when those I mean, for the calls, for example, you could put on your booking form, all calls will be charged and must be booked 24 hours in advance or something like that. Or you could, if you don't want any calls, you could put all communication will be by email so that there's a paper trail, or you don't even have to add that last bit if you like. With regards to the micromanaging, you wouldn't put that on there because, as with my client, they don't always know that they are micromanaging. They're just the old school, if you like. They want to know everything. And so if it comes up, you could then address it with the simple sort of, do you know that I got to have the clock on for this, so this is costing you a bit more, but I have already said that I've done that. Or it's okay, you don't need to give me the step-by-step process because I've done that 3 times for you already. So I do know what I'm doing, but I will give you a shout if I get stuck. Anything like that. So you can address these things as they come up. But with regards to calls or no DMs or anything like that, best to put that, I think, on your booking form. I refer to a booking form, and as you may know, you can get that from Coffee Clatch. Coffee is with a K and Clatch is with a K as well. And I'm one of their affiliates and an acquaintance of Annabelle that founded the company back in the 80s, I think. So because I've been accepted, and I'm very grateful, as an affiliate, I can give you a code for 10% off. And that's Kath with a C. Should do it with a K, shouldn't I really? So CATH10. Altogether, no spaces, and you can get 10% off. So looking at a few more boundaries and why we are kind of like, we find it difficult to do them. You're a people pleaser, perhaps, or you feel that you should be pleasing your clients because you felt like I am still grateful for anybody that wants to work with me. Absolutely. I never take it for granted. This life is wonderful. Every day I love it. But you need to keep that grateful emotion almost inside and remember that you're their equal. They're just as lucky to have you as you are to have them. So you don't need to bend over backwards, as some people have said. You don't need to apologize or oh, I am sorry, I don't take calls. What's better is I prefer to communicate by email because I find it's a lot quicker, so it will be less expensive for you. Boom. They'll be like, "Oh, all right then, yeah, cheers." I'm trying to come up with an analogy that we can all relate to. Okay, if you want somebody to do something, you have to stand your ground. And it's really hard to do. I appreciate that. I find it easier than some people because I'm tenacious, but I also appreciate that it's really hard for many people. But if you take anything away from this podcast, can you take this away? But if you break one of your boundaries once, or you don't communicate them, then you're letting people know it's okay. They can do it again, or that boundary is no longer in place. So if somebody comes to you and says, is there any chance you could do this Sunday evening because I need it for Monday morning? No. Even if you're free, even if the rest of your family have gone out, if you don't usually work Sundays, it's a no. If you're going to say yes, then be prepared for them to ask again. And how are you going to say no next time when it's not convenient? Or if they phone you when you're at a family function or, having a lovely family evening playing board games, something like that. So do be strong. No is absolutely okay. You don't even need to apologize. You can just politely say no. No is a complete sentence. Or you can be like, I can. I work Tuesdays to Thursdays. I can do it Tuesday morning for you. Yeah, have it. So, a few boundaries you might want in place. Now, if you were like me and you just plodded ahead with your VA business and you're just so excited and you're going to let clients phone you and you're even going to give them your home address, they can pop round any time, you will meet them 3 hours away and never charge for fuel. And it's absolutely fine for them to phone you at 6:15 in the morning. And now you're regretting all of that. It's fine. We can turn this around. All you have to do is just send them an email and say, I've been working on reducing my overwhelm and I don't want to get burnt out, so that you and my other clients, always best to let them know that they are not the only one, so that you and all my other clients continue to receive the best VIP service from me. Therefore, I will no longer be accepting calls that aren't scheduled 24 hours in advance, or you could just say, I will no longer be accepting calls, or I am now converting all communication to emails, or I am now no longer able to meet face to face. I sent that exact email out about being face to face. I think I was just getting more and more fatigued, and I just found it. I just don't like it, to be honest. But it's also very draining. I find, like, Zoom calls are draining. Not because I don't want to talk to the person, but they are just draining because you have to, you can't sit there sort of picking your nose or what have you. But yeah, I remember sending an email to a client and saying, from next month, I will no longer be doing face-to-face meetings. Everything's going to be via email so that I can manage my fatigue better. And because I'm finding that if I'm doing a face-to-face meeting, the rest of the day is wiped out, and that's not great for my business. They're absolutely fine. You don't need a face-to-face meeting. I mean, one of the only things that you would need a face-to-face meeting for in this day and age is to have your hair cut. And if you shave all your hair off and wear a wig, then you could just send your hair via post. So you wouldn't even need to meet face-to-face with a hairdresser. Genius. Brittany wasn't mad, was she? And another thing to remember is it's absolutely fine to ignore a message. So if something's come in on a Saturday, you don't need to reply. That's another great way of setting your boundaries. Oh, and something else before I go. You could put your working hours on your email signature. So before I do the theme tune at the end, I want to thank Lily Attwell-Rowan for suggesting this podcast topic. I'm glad that I put a shout out for people to get in touch with any topics they want me to cover on the podcast. If you've got any ideas, don't hesitate to email me. Nothing is a stupid idea, because if you want it covered, you can guarantee that others do. I mean, when Lily came up with this idea, it was like, why haven't I even thought of this? So if you've got an idea, either pop it in the Facebook group or email me, podcast@catherinegladwyn.co.uk. And also let me know if you want a shout out in the podcast that I do to thank you for it. Thanks for listening. If you're ready to reclaim your independence, then subscribe to this podcast, because there is so much I'm going to give you. You've got to subscribe on your favourite channel, it says. What channel? I ain't going to be on the BBC, am I?